What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for support on the last few videos. Today I'm going to be going over how to color with you guys in Premiere Pro. So today we're actually going to be doing this on my Windows computer because my Mac about 30-40 minutes ago decided to actually die on me. So I can't use the Mac for a while. I made an appointment and it's going to be about 2 weeks or so before I can actually use my Mac. So until then we're going to be using the Windows computer, so I am sorry in advance for any lag issues or anything with that. So I hope it runs smoothly and I'm still trying to get this content out to you guys. I'm going to throw the screen on the screen and let's get started. So first we have this 3 project clip in Premiere Pro CC for you guys, so I can help you guys color. They're all different light settings. With this mid-tone bright one, we have this dark one, and then we have this really extra bright one. So first of all, we're gonna go over to this color tab right here. If you're using Premiere Pro CC, it should be in there for you. And we're gonna have this clip. We're gonna throw a LUT on it. And if you guys don't know how to apply a LUT, I actually have a tutorial in my LUT pack. You guys can find that in the description. And I'm gonna use these 6 LUTs from my tutorial, or from my LUT pack, sorry. So we throw this on. Here you have your Lumetri Scopes. This one right here on the left hand is helping you find your white balance. When your white balance is perfect, you should get some white here. The more white, the better, and you should have a rainbow line through the middle or whatever, something along those lines. Here is your whites, your blacks, your shadows, and your highlights. I'll go into that in a second. So we're gonna go to this tab here, the basic corrections. So we already have our LUT imported. If you want to mess around with the white balance, you guys can do that. Or you can have Premiere Pro automatically find it using this eyedropper tool. You can select whatever is supposed to be white in the image, and Premiere Pro will try its best to find a white balance that fits. So let's say this is the white balance and they turn everything else blue. But that's clearly not. So we have a perfectly fine white balance right now, since this up here is supposed to be white and it collects the same data. So we're gonna start off with the highlights. So what the highlights do is brightens up all these already bright areas. So like this is a highlight, this is a highlight, this is a highlight, his shirt here, the brighter ends of his shirt are highlights. So if we bring this up, you see all of this lighter part bright up, but nothing here on these shadows. So those are the shadows, which if you bring it down, they get darker. If you bring them up, they get brighter. There's no shadows in this image now. Bring them down to a good rate. I'm gonna leave highlights at 100 actually. I like it the way that way it looks. So the whites actually control the real whites, not the highlights. The highlights don't really control the whites, they just control the bright parts. If you wanna get into the actual whites, that's what the whites are for. And the same thing with the blacks. The blacks controls the real, true blacks in the image. So I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. If you want your film to have a little faded look, you can bring the blacks up a little bit. Actually, it adds this nice little fade right here. I don't want that for this clip, so we're gonna bring it down and we'll leave it at -10. And then we're gonna jump to the creative tab. So what I like to do on most of my shots is add a 10 to 15 faded film, because that's what I like, and I add a 45 sharpen just to add the extra sharpen to it. If you guys want to mess around with the vibrance, this, you know, makes a vibrant color, and the saturation, well, adds or removes color. You can color the shadows. Let's say that you want the shadows blue and you want the highlights red, so you get all this, and that's kind of ugly. I don't really touch these down here, so I'm going to leave them. And then we go into the curves. The curves, the top part of the curves is the lighter ends of the photo. If you drag it over, you get everything bright. This is the darker ends. You drag everything over, it gets dark. Simple as that. I like to add 3 points on my grid. So if I bring it down here, the shadows get darker. And if I bring it up over here, the brights get brighter. And of course, the opposite as well. But I will leave it at this. And with curves, you can actually go into specific colors. So let's say that there's a little bit too much green in this. So I'm gonna make 3 points. Again, you don't have to do 3 points. I just prefer using 3 points. It gets more control of certain areas in the image. So let's say I want less green in the shadows, and I want more green in the highlights, but I don't. So I'm gonna bring it down. Alright, so it's a little bit past this median point. There's a little bit too much blue, so I'm actually going to grab the whole thing, one point, and drag the blues a little bit down here. And we get this nice brown image. Brown. So then over here, we can actually control specific colors. So I have 2 points separating. Separate this, separate this, separate this. It's really up to you. So let's say I wanted more orange. So I'm going to grab it right here and pull up. There we have a lot more orange, a lot more yellows, but I don't want all that, so I'm actually going to drag it down because I want a little bit less. The blues are getting a little drastic as well, but I actually don't see much change in them, so I might leave that up, bring the greens up a little bit, make it a little more noticeable. And if you guys want to reset it, just double click and everything resets. Now, I don't really mess with the color wheels, but if you want midtones, you know, it changes colors of everything. And shadows, I actually like that kind of, to be honest. I might keep that, this little brown. And then we're going to jump to HSL secondary. So let's grab the eyedropper tool, this plus one. So let's say I wanted to add a little bit of hue or tint, change the color of the trees back here. So we have that. And let's say I wanted to make them cyan. So we're gonna choose the cyan down here. You can see that the color changes. This works really well for getting like a certain teal orange look that you want. So let's say that I want to actually change the skin color and I want to add some teal to it, and that didn't really turn out so well. But you guys are trying to get the point, right? You guys get the point. So let's say I wanted to add red to it, you know? Something along those lines, make it a little more green or something. So that's what the HSL secondary does. You get specific on certain colors and you can control it that way. So let's leave it at that. I like the way this looks. And then we're gonna jump over to the next clip. So now you guys have the basics down. I'm gonna throw a LUT on here. We're gonna use my desat attack. It's a really dark, so I'm gonna bring the blacks up and I'm trying to go for a faded look. So I'm gonna bring the highlights up a little bit, get a little brighter, bring the shadows up, and we have this little faded look already. I'm gonna bring the temperature down because I want a little brown, and then bring the greens up a little bit, and it gets this old vintage look. So then, honestly, I think the curves don't need to be messed with. If anything, just a little bit brighter. Creative, of course. I do the 10, I do the 45. Done. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this clip. There wasn't much that needed to be done, and it looks good the way it is, in my opinion. So now we're jumping over to Jess. Jess is a really bright image right now. So we're gonna add my Sunkissed LUT, and we're gonna, you know, bring those shadows down a little bit. If you look right here, you guys might be able to see this little gray spot. It's a cloud, but you can't define that it's a cloud because the brights are too bright, the highlights are too bright. So we're gonna bring these highlights all the way down, and you guys start to see this more defined cloud. So Jess is a shadow, and her background is a huge highlight. So I'm gonna bring those shadows down. I'm gonna bring the blacks down a little bit. I'm gonna bring these whites. I'm just gonna leave it maybe there. Bring the contrast up, and we're gonna change these white balances, add a little more green because honestly, we could use some. So I'm gonna hit the sharpen on 45 and the fade to 10. Hit these curves. I'm actually gonna bring the reds down a little bit because, especially on Jess, I want her to have a little bit more difference, you know? So we're gonna bring it up in the highlights, however. And then for the shadows here, I want more green on Jess. So we have this green overlay on Jess right now. And then we're gonna bring the green away from the shadow so we get this little purple, red. So it's a mix of blue and red because I never really touched the blues. So if you look while we're going through this spot here, you get a nice red image when the sun is flaring. And then when it goes away, you get this green, dark, kind of hipster indie grain look. So right here. I think the reds are actually a little bit too strong on Jess, so I'm gonna bring it down just a tad. And actually, I think the blues might be affecting that, so I'm gonna bring down the blues a little. So we have all of this going, and bam, we got a nice image of Jess right there. And if you want, you guys can throw in some desaturation, some HSL secondary, you know, hue, split toning. But for that, I think we're good enough now. I hope that this tutorial really helped you guys learn a little bit about all of the features in Premiere Pro, what they do, and kind of how to just color grade in general. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, share the video with your friends, maybe help them out with coloring, and where if they're starting up, they can learn something. Hopefully, my Mac is going to be fixed soon. It's going to be about a week or two probably. Just guessing, I haven't gone to the store yet. It's still the same day. Everything's closed. So hopefully it'll be fixed soon. But make sure you guys tune in to the next video on Tuesday where I will be shooting my Worth It video. And maybe you guys can decide whether or not you want to buy something. Make sure you guys check out my LUT pack, my Lightroom preset pack. All that can be found in the description below. Follow me on Instagram, all that social media, and I will see you guys in the next video. Alright, catch you guys later.